How's the real estate market doing, you might ask? Well, I tend to ask myself that same question almost every morning. I'm out here in Arizona wondering if I should be getting into my next big development project or if I should be just sitting on the sidelines waiting for the market to crash. I mean, we've got interest rates coming down, but housing prices are still much higher than most people can afford. Plus, the elections are right around the corner, so that's making everybody uneasy. In today's Market Watch episode, let's try to get a grip on what's going on in the real estate market lately and dive into some of the top real estate industry headlines from the last couple weeks. The first story on our list today is about New York City. There's a new housing policy that's supposed to maybe go into effect out there that could create a development boom. They're saying that for the first time, free market rental buildings in New York City will be subject to regulations like good cause eviction. But my understanding is the objective with good cause eviction in New York is they're trying to make sure that landlords don't raise rents an unreasonable amount to where the tenant can't afford it, and then the landlord evicts the tenant for not being able to afford the new rent. There have been some changes around the requirements of how many units in a new development project need to be set aside for more affordable housing. So like, for example, developers who are building less than 100 units are going to be required to set aside 20% of those apartments for tenants who are within 80% of that threshold. The last thing they're doing is they're creating new tax incentives, which will incentivize people to take old office buildings in New York that are not being used anymore and convert those office buildings into residential. It's a complicated topic. It's not that developers do not want to build affordable housing, it's just that they literally can't afford to. So it's nice to see somewhere like New York working on some tools and tricks and changes to regulations to make it kind of benefit both future tenants in the city and also real estate developers. This article caught my attention the other day. It's a little bit more lighthearted. Let's talk about what Architectural Digest is calling the 13 most beautiful, underrated cities in the world. All right, so they're setting the bar high. They're telling us that we're going from celebrity hideaways to ancient Incan villages with the most stunning places that we've never heard of. First on our list is a place called Eager Hungary. Haven't even heard of this one before, so they're off to a good start. Apparently, this place is known for its medieval castles. It's got deep underground tunnels, 60 miles worth of tunnels that are sprawling throughout, I guess, underneath the city. That's pretty cool. Next up, we've got this place outside of Mallorca, Spain. It's kind of funny how they describe this one. They say, in this city, they get actors, politicians, musicians, and designers. They all come here because nobody cares who you are in this town. It's a place where you can walk around without being observed all the time. That probably is legit. Like if you're constantly getting chased around by paparazzis in like Beverly Hills, to be able to just come here and be able to live like a normal person for a few days would be nice. We have a place called Procida in Italy next on the list, which was named Italy's capital of culture in 2022. They say it's one of the most overlooked parts of the country. A place in the Netherlands is next on the list. It's just outside of Rotterdam. I have been to Amsterdam before. Huge fan. I love all the bikes. I love all the canals. Definitely go to the Netherlands if you can. They're saying the city Nagano, Japan is a popular spot for mountain biking, skiing, hiking, stuff like that. Ashland, Oregon is next. Never been to Ashland, but I do love Oregon. I've been to Bend, I've been to Portland. Oregon is absolutely beautiful. Back to Italy, this place Orvieto is an hour and a half north of Rome, and this is another city where they're saying there are miles of underground caves and tunnels below the city. And another colonial architecture town that I'm not going to even try to pronounce rounds out the list today. A lot of people travel here for the fishing, they say. CNBC is saying that homeowners who are thinking about retiring might be actually a little bit overconfident in their ability to retire. Any of us out there who are homeowners know that owning a home in general does make you more financially confident, especially if you bought a home within the last 10 years or so and you've enjoyed a bunch of appreciation on your house. They did this poll last month of about 6,600 adults, and 37% of people are saying that they are on schedule for retirement due to the fact that they own their homes. What's weird is that if you own a house and you have, let's say, a $300,000 mortgage on it, but let's say that same house is worth $800,000, you're kind of in this position where you do feel a little rich because you feel like you have this $500,000 that's just sort of sitting there in the bank. This retirement analyst, though, is saying that obviously you can't just consider the value of your house, but you need to look more closely at how much you've borrowed. I've always been an advocate for owning the house that you live in, but this was an interesting topic that came up, and it made me think more about, like, if I was entering retirement, what would I want? Would I want to own the house that I live in, or would I prefer just like a turnkey experience where I rent my house? Yeah, I might have a rent increase every once in a while, but I can call my landlord if anything ever goes wrong. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Luxury real estate agents in LA met recently at the Real Deals Real Estate Forum event. They talked about two pretty big topics, the first being the whole NAR situation, and the second, Measure ULA. They started off on that NAR topic, which went into effect in August. There's a lot that has changed here, but the biggest changes are that now buyers need to sign a representation agreement prior to being shown any property. And the second big change is that sellers are no longer allowed to advertise buyer commission information when they list their property for sale. Aaron Kerman said that when he's going to listing appointments now, every time the seller's already thinking that they don't have to pay commissions anymore. Now, I think that's absolutely crazy, because if sellers are thinking that they don't have to pay commissions anymore, what that tells me is that those sellers' agents are not doing a very good job communicating how this whole new situation works. Sally Forrester from Compass just says that on the buyer side, it's challenging because you need to articulate your value as an agent a lot better nowadays, and most buyers, of course, really want a deal. In the instances where buyers are paying their brokers directly for their services, what I expect happening going forward is we're probably not going to see the standard 2.5% or 3% rate. A lot of buyer brokers are probably just going to be offering a flat rate for their commissions. The second big thing they talked about at this forum was the Measure ULA, in other words, the mansion tax. This is that tax that went into effect last year that says if you sell a house for over $5 million, you need to pay a 4% tax. If you sell a house for over $10 million, you need to pay a 5.5% tax. This obviously has had an impact on the sales of mansions in the area, but what's interesting is that mansions weren't the only types of properties that were impacted by this. They've seen a lot of developers impacted where they were looking at an opportunity on land or dirt and they basically just walked away from the deal. This applies to both residential and commercial. Good news, at least in the luxury front in LA, is that deals are still getting done. The question is, are clients or buyers feeling wealthy or poor right now? And because of the state of the stock market, a lot of clients are still feeling pretty wealthy, so they're still buying. Last story on our list today, we have the Redfin CEO who is saying that the housing market is kind of in a funk right now as everybody waits for the election. Let's check out this video together and see what he has to say.
Oh, housing is in just a funk. Even though interest rates have dropped 20 to 30 basis points over the past few weeks, we've seen home buyers still on the sidelines. I think some of it is that home prices just keep rising. So up 4% year on year, even as the housing market has been somewhat slow.
It's true. Anyone I know who's shopping for a house right now is like running the numbers with a mortgage calculator, and they're like, okay, interest rates are down to like 6.25. That's great. But with housing prices being where they're at, basically flat or higher than they were just say 6 months ago, they still can't afford to buy a house. So it's definitely a tough situation, especially for first-time home buyers.
The real issue might just be the election. We've talked to so many home buyers who say they're going to wait to see what happens in this election. It is gripping the national psyche, as you may have heard, Neil.
What's weird, too, about the elections that I've read a lot about is that it doesn't even really matter who wins the election. Like, could we have Trump win? Could we have Kamala win? Some people would argue that one party or the other would be better for the real estate market. But the issue now is just uncertainty. People don't like uncertainty. So the fact that the elections are looming, that's the problem. It's that the elections are coming and we don't know who's going to win. Once they pass and a winner is determined, then the market can kind of take a sigh of relief and hopefully demand starts picking back up and people start actually buying.
The real issue is that the government is borrowing so much money, and so the Republicans want to cut spending, the Democrats want to raise taxes. We probably need to do a little bit of both, and that's going to be the biggest factor on the housing market. Is just, can we get the deficit under control? Can we make sure we have a clamp on inflation? Can the Fed do its job without a lot of political pressure? And obviously, we need the rest of the economy to do really well.
What is the definition of a good housing market? From a lot of people's standpoints, it is, do we have affordable housing available for people who are looking to buy a house? But if you're a homeowner like me or any of you other homeowners out there, a good housing market is a market where you can sell your house and walk away with a big profit and a good payday. So it's like, the sellers and the homeowners in this country obviously want values to stay the same or go up. All the people who are looking to buy in this country want home values to stay the same or go down. So the definition of a good housing market is really going to depend on who you're talking to and what stage of their life they're in terms of home ownership. That's a wrap for today's episode. Don't forget to hit the like button down below if you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below if you want to see more real estate videos from the Estate Media channel in the future. I'll see you guys next time.